Hello, World Tank Blitzers, it's Littlefinger. Hey, it is June 24th, and I took most of the weekend off and came back in and noticed there's a lot going on right now with the 10-year anniversary event. So I wanted to just talk about this. I might be doing this as my store review on a Monday and not a Friday, but let's go through what's just happened. So I just put out a video, the T62, which you see here in my garage, was in a draw. So if you want to see how the draw plays out, I had to go all the way through and spend 16,637 gold in order to get this tier 8 tank. Yes, that is a heavy price for a tier 8. So as we mentioned before, as part of the season 4 event, we've got the E10 and the Death Star, and I'm working my way up. This is a 90-day event, so you got to take it slowly. You can't rush it too much. And you're going to get these screens through different events throughout that 90 days. But one of the things that someone mentioned was that if you were to say just you wanted to speed up, the cost of a screen is essentially a gold piece, right? 5,500 gold is the same as 5,580 screens there. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because of what's been put out into the store today or this weekend. I'm not exactly sure when it happened. There's a lot of tanks, and there's 2 overlapping events. So the event is the Contraband Event here. We've seen these type of events. This is going to last just over 10 days. You're going to get coupons for buying gold or buying tanks in the store. The Bat Chat Barask, the medium tank, this is a really fun tank, by the way, to play, is available for 500 coupons. You don't have to spend a lot of gold or a lot of tanks to get 500 coupons, and I'll show you that just in a second. The Charlemagne is the next tank after this, and that is going to be an additional 600 on top of the 500 that you're going to have to spend to unlock this. And then the BZ is the last tank. I can't remember if that's 800, and I can't imagine you'd have to spend hundreds of dollars in gold in order to unlock that. But what I do want to point out, there are some interesting other options for those of us that don't want to spend a lot of money, but there are a couple tanks that I want to get. So I'm going to end up with approximately 150 coupons here. So one of the things I can do is I can essentially exchange 10 coupons for 78 screens. And like I said before, the screens are loosely worth a gold each, right? If you're dedicated and want to get that Death Star all the way equipped up, or that E10 all the way equipped up, you kind of need to get those screens in order to do that. This one here for 300, I thought this is insane. This is crazy. Yes, it's for the new BZ tier 9 tank, but if you look at it, it's only got a 1% drop chance. That is crazy. Certainly not something I would recommend. The other 2 options that are a little bit better would be the collect 'em all container. Part of the reason for this is, yes, there is a lot of tanks in this, and the drop chance is certainly not 100% you're going to get a tank, but it is 100% if you don't get a tank that you're going to get a gold charm. 7 gold charms get you 1,000 gold. So that's one way to get gold out of it. The other one that I like better is this grand surprise container. So you get this container, open it up, and you're gonna get another container. You're gonna get one of these. This could be anything from a tier 6 Paulac to tier 8, tier 9. We've got a tier 8. I know there's some tier 10s in here, the M60. So the benefit to these containers is you get a 20% chance of getting the tank, or you're gonna get gold in return. So with the tier 10, you're gonna get 5,000 gold. With the tier 6, you're only gonna get 750 gold. So you're gambling on gambling here as it relates to this event if you do have these coupons to spend. The other option, if you end up with some coupons, and I'm gonna just skip to this one first, is in this maximum reward here for the Kampfpanzer 50T, and I highly recommend you go watch that draw I just did so you understand how this works. My guess is that those coupons are going to keep increasing in price just like it did with the draw, and you're looking at a 0.07% chance, and you're like, oh, that's a crap deal. Yes, I understand that's a crap deal. The only reason I bring this up is that for 5 coupons, you're most likely, not guaranteed, but almost 50% chance you're going to end up with those 250 screens. So if that does be your first draw, then you know that is actually a better exchange than anything else in the event tab there. So now let's talk about this whole new section, event offers, because there's new tanks here that even I don't have. So I'm going to be spending some gold. There's not great deals, but there are new tanks. So let's start with vast resources here. Now, depends upon how you want to look at this. 500 gold is less than 500 gold per dollar, but if we add in the 195 screens, that makes it a little bit more intriguing, and you're going to get these 5 coupons. So not a horrible deal, especially for such a low dollar cost. We're stepping this up, getting 2,500 for the 6, 975 and 25. Again, you got 50 gold boosters. Not a horrible deal for a low dollar investment in the game. And then strategic power, not quite as good of a deal, but yet you're getting almost 2,000 screens and 50 of the coupons there. So let's talk about these tanks. The Kampfpanzer 50 is the tier 10 medium tank. I have not played this a whole bunch, like 20-25 battles. It's what you would expect out of a German medium tank with a nice accurate gun. What I do like about this is 3,600 damage per minute is quite nice, but the armor is pretty much non-existent. You've got 8 degrees of gun depression and 60 kilometers per hour as a top speed. You know, I did not fall in love with this by any means. You know, I just felt this to be a very average tier 10 tank. And when you're looking at 18,500 gold, it is quite expensive. And I think, as you'll see as we go through this, a lot of these have some new camos on them. This one I don't think is new, but you know, you've got the 5X applies to all tanks. So if you're grinding tanks, that is certainly a benefit there. So there's some extra value here with the camo and the 5Xs and the coupon. But I still think 18,000, you know, if you're looking at it just for the tank alone, is expensive. The WZ1115A, again, another heavy tank at tier 10 that, you know, I'm just not overly excited about. This is 2,700 average damage. You've got 7 degrees of gun depression, 45 kilometers. It does everything pretty well, but you know, it's, to me, I just don't find excitement in that heavy play style. So again, keep that in mind. 18,000 gold there. What I do think a tank that's probably going to attract a few people is the T22 medium. It comes with the camo, obviously, and the 5Xs and the coupons. And the price is coming down a little bit, but if you can see underneath the chassis here of this tank, it is angled very steeply. So this is a spaced armor in here, and a lot of people, when they get lazy, don't necessarily aim this in very well. So the effective armor on the sides of this is actually really well. You can almost like reverse side scrape on it. Just over angle this tank makes this quite a bouncy little tank at times. I feel that perhaps it's got a little bit under pen, you know, and I find that I struggle with pen on this a little bit at times, but it is very much a brawling medium play style. One of the tanks that I can't really talk to too much, I have watched a couple streams with His Royal Fatness played this. And the interesting thing, this is a tier 9 medium tank, but what you're gonna see is the Hesh on this and heat as your only 2 options here for for ammo, so you can't shoot through buildings or anything with this, but 2200 damage per minute seems a little bit low, but that's going to be effective with the heat, not the HE, which is going to be 500, and still got a nice pen number here for 200, and that's obviously before you add equipment, so you get that to 220. So really the key is knowing where to shoot weak spots to maximize the pen on that. I don't know if it was necessarily that maneuverable at 45 kilometers per hour for a medium tank. Seems a little bit slow, but you've got the 10 degrees of gun depression. Seems like it's going to work well. So yeah, I'm going to certainly drop the 15.5 on that. The Kampfpanzer 70, we've seen this tank around so much, and you know the camo here is old. You know, 12.5 for this just seems quite expensive. You know, if you guys like the derp, this is the tank. It's only got 97 HE pen, but 640 there is a nice big number coming from this tank. I don't like it in the sense that you've got a longer reload, 15.7 seconds, so the penalty for missing shots is extremely high. The AMX 30, this is the tier 9 medium. Love the mobility and accuracy on this gun. You know, but it's kind of an awkward at tier 9 tank. You've got 2600 damage per minute. The gun just sings on it very, very well. 10 degrees of gun depression, 60 kilometers per hour as top speed. A very effective tank in my opinion. But again, 10.5 for a tier 9, still quite high. The Progetto, you know, this is a tank that I have in my must-own collection of tanks, this active reloading system tank. But, you know, this tank was a giveaway tank. People got this for free, so it's hard to justify telling you to spend 10,000 gold on it, quite honestly. I don't know. If you missed out, then, you know, this tank really works well. You can see with shells 3 and 2 here, the reload is 4.9, so you kind of want to try to stay away from the shell 1 reload time if you can, but factor in that 2.5 seconds in between those shells. 3 shell auto loader. It's just a really, really fun tank to play. And then we get into another German medium tank here. I kind of like this tank here. I really thought that this should have been spaced armor around the front, but it is not. And, you know, I don't really know what to say other than it's a very standard German play style. Accurate gun, good mobility, 2500 damage per minute there, 10 degrees of gun depression. There's that 60 kilometers of top speed. But again, I'm feeling that there's starting to get a lot of tanks very similar to this in the tier 8 medium realm as well. The Skoda here is a heavy tank that I just could not get behind. The gun just trolls me for days. When you look at it, you've only got 1700 damage per minute, and the gun misses as often as it does. It's really hard to play this tank well, in my opinion. 8 degrees of gun depression, only 35 kilometers per hour. Not a lot I have positive to say about that tank there. The Action X here is very close to a must-own tank, but again, we've seen this for so much cheaper than this. You know, I would only recommend it if these 5X boosters are beneficial for you, or you're looking just to get a few coupons out of the deal. But as you know, with the British tanks, they're high firing, low damage. This one does have some nice armor that you can certainly work to your advantage as well. And then tank I can't talk to you about because I don't yet own it, and I won't be spending the 9,000 gold to get this tank, rear mounted TS60. You know, I've seen it in game. Obviously it's got some good armor on it. Well, I don't know anything about the gun, but 2600 damage there, only 7 degrees on a rear mounted. Should be kind of interesting to play. I'm thinking maybe like an STG difficulty level here, but we'll see, and I can report back. The Bisonte here, enjoyed playing this tier 8 heavy tank. it's got the reserve shell, so keep that in mind. You've got 2 shells in your magazine, with a reserve shell being one of those 2. So that means that you really don't want to have to use that first shell. 16.5 seconds on that reload, whereas if you can keep using this one, it's a 5.78 seconds. So this one is an emergency shell, a kill, to get that last bit of damage out at the end of a game, that type of thing. So you have to be very, very careful with waiting until you fully reloaded that second shell. But the armor works very well on this. It's a little bit on the slow side. 8 degrees of gun depression, 35 kilometers top speed. And one of the tank destroyers, the Kanonen here, that I do enjoy, 105. Starting to get the price down somewhat reasonable. You have to have some value in these other items for this 8,000 to make sense. I would recommend this tank at 7,500 by itself. Very versatile, good mobility, accurate gun, allows you to set up gameplay where you can get into position, get some shots off. If the enemy hasn't gone where you think they're going to go, or you need to get crossfire shots, you can quickly relocate, because this tank has a lot of mobility. So here's your 2,700 damage per minute. Nice number for a tier 8. 8 degrees of gun depression, 55 kilometers per hour as your top speed, showing you the mobility on that tank. The T2020, this tank's been buffed and nerfed and been all over the place. I actually have a pretty good record in it, but haven't played it that much. It's your standard tier 8 heavy play style. 1900 average, your damage per minute there. 6 degrees of gun depression makes this a little sketchy. 40 kilometers per hour as your top speed. But for 8,000, it's still a little bit on the high side for me. I'd rather have the GSOR over the T2020. This tank is a little bit unique. It's very slow. Just keep that in mind. Tier 8 tank destroyer, 2 shell auto loader, and what you'll see here is your Hesh at 184 pen doing 440 damage. So while it does say a damage per minute number of 2473, if you can get those Hesh shots to go in, your damage per minute is much higher. 8 degrees of gun depression, 49 kilometers per hour as top speed, but your power to weight is only 14, so it takes a long time to this tank to get up to speed. Accuracy is pretty good, so just keep that in mind as well. I'm telling you, there's a lot of tanks that I wanted to talk about, which is why I'm doing this on a Monday and not waiting until Friday. We've got the Samoa here. We've got another auto loader. This is a heavy tank, tier 8 still. Again, if you get exposed on the side, very easily penned. The front has some nice armor to it. You've got 3 shell auto loader, 10 degrees of gun depression, 40 kilometers per hour as top speed. Just mediocre to me, nothing great, nothing horrible about this tank. And for 7,500, you're actually getting into a price that is what I would consider reasonable for a tier 8 tank. Now we're starting to get into the tier 7s. The FE201, another one of these British tanks that's high firing, low damage. For 5,000 gold, it's still up there in price. I don't think a lot of people go and play this tier 7 tanks by themselves unless they are super unique. And that's where we get into the Super Hellcat, which has that great mobility. 65 kilometers per hour. Obviously no armor associated with this, but you've got 2,800 damage per minute. So this tank really can put out some good numbers with it. The gun's nice and accurate. You've got 9 degrees of gun depression, so a lot going for this tank. And for 5,500, yeah, it's reasonable. Not a great deal, not a horrible deal there either. The Steyr is another tank destroyer, German. Let's see, I don't think this one has quite the numbers. 2,200 damage per minute, so it doesn't have the DPM. 7 degrees of gun depression, doesn't have the gun depression, and only 50 kilometers per hour as the top speed. So I would choose the Super Hellcat over this one, but different playstyle. TOG, well, I'd pass on that, considering they just basically gave this tank out for free not too long ago. Not even gonna look at it. The Type 64, I believe, is tier 6, light tank, no armor whatsoever, and very dangerous with smashers and whatnot around for 3,000 gold. And you're not getting the 5x and very little coupons there. So not a great deal unless you're a collector and looking to pick up those tanks. And the Bretagne here is a German tier 6, 22, 35, 100 gold. Just your average tank, nothing super special about it. It does have that German nice gun accuracy. So those is what I wanted to go over. There's so many tanks here, guys. So just want to give you a little bit of insight into each and every one of those and hope you make a better decision with your purchasing of spending gold in this game. So with that, guys, have fun out there. Stay safe. Get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.